Hi, welcome back to Burning River Bushcraft. Today we're going to be making an alcohol stove out of 2 aluminum cans. So the ability to make an alcohol stove with garbage is something I would consider to be both an urban skill and a wilderness skill. Uh, you do find garbage everywhere, but this is also something that you can pre-make at home and use for an ultralight cook kit. So you do need 2 aluminum cans. Uncrushed is going to be a whole lot easier on yourself. The top half of the can you don't necessarily use, but it's going to be a lot easier to work with if they're both in decent shape. You're also going to need 1 penny, and you're going to need some type of fuel. Now for fuel, you can use methanol, you can use ethanol, any of the rubbing alcohol, yellow can heat, as well as some of the high strength liquor, all will burn in a alcohol stove. So I've done these with my knife tip. This knife happens to have an awl with it. If you're making these at home, a regular push pin off a bulletin board makes nice clean holes and is very controllable. So for my first hole, I'm going to go dead center middle. And we're going to do nice small controlled holes on this. What you don't want to have is a knife slip and make a slash. That's just going to really screw up your burn. So this is my primary hole. Now on all 4 sides, I'm going to Okay, so there's 5 holes, nice and small. This is going to get covered up with a penny, so that's kind of going to give you a idea of where you've got to keep those holes inside. Okay, for the next set of holes, we're going to go on this outside rim of the can. So I'm going to go right into here. Okay, so then directly across, I'm going to make another hole. So if I've got it at 6 and 12, I'm going to do 3 and 9. Okay, so now I divided it up. I divided those quarters into 8ths. Now, in between every hole, I'm going to go 1 more. And I'm really choking up on this awl, and I'm just barely using the tip of it. And those are fairly evenly spaced all the way along. So this is going to be the top can. So now with my knife blade, to make a nice, easy, even cut, what I'm going to do is use something for a spacer. In this case, I'm just going to use my lighter. I'm going to go ahead and pinch it and hold it, and this is going to be the space up off the ground that's going to be the cut. I'll use a roll of tape a lot. Just keep in mind the height of this is going to be the height of your can. So if you're trying to make an ultra light, ultra small one to fit into a kit, you might want to use something skinny, maybe 3/4 of an inch or so. If you're doing big cooking, anytime like you're trying to put the heat onto a pot or something, if that's the case, you might want to go up to an inch or even half a can. That's going to increase your burn time. So I'm going to hold my knife stationary on the flat surface here, kind of flat surface. Now with the finished end down, I'm just going to score the can. So I'm going to hold the knife and just rotate the can. So I've made quite a bit of these and I've screwed quite a bit up. One thing that I did initially try is to make a cut all the way through the can. Generally, if I score it like I did, it's kind of hard to see where the score line is. I'm then able to just make a cut high above where I want it to be. And then just start to peel the can. So now that I get it running, it'll peel down to the score line and give me a nice even tear. Okay, so this is going to be the bottom. So in this case, we're not going to do any holes to it. Same thing, I'm going to make my spacer with the lighter, score along the edge, cut and tear. Now to get the bottom end of the top, they're the same diameter. What I'm going to do is just give it a little crimp. Alright, so I've got the bottom crimped a little bit, just to make it a little easier to tuck the two sides together. But the bottom edge of it is untouched. That's going to be a nice seal when I put the top on the bottom. Sometimes getting the two ends together can be a little bit tricky. One thing you can do with a piece of the aluminum here is just to make a little shoehorn, and then that slides in and just bridges the gap. Then it slips right out when you're done. Okay, so there's a nice seal. And again, the size of this can is going to be dependent on, what you use for a spacer. So you can use a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, but this seems to be a pretty good go-to size for me. So to light this thing up, we're going to go ahead and set it down, fill it up with rubbing alcohol in this case. And then we're going to actually have to prime it. So we're going to have to start a small fire on the outside of the can and let that heat up the can until the jets start to work. Okay, just a little bit of alcohol in it. Now we're going to use a penny to cover up the top fill holes, and that's going to give us our head pressure, which lets the jets work. So I'm going to put a little bit of alcohol on the ground and around the can, and I'm going to go ahead and light. Okay, you can see the jets are starting to flow through now. And that's it, that's full. Alright, so the alcohol stove is a handy thing to be able to build in a case if you're in an urban situation. You can use trash and found fuel to cook food or for warmth. A lot of times you're in a camping in an area where there is a no fire ban. If that's the case, get a couple pops, make a stove real quick, and you went from unprepared to prepared like nothing. This is only part of the equation. You need some way to lift your pot up off the stove. With this particular style, you can't just set a pot right on top of the stove. It'll actually snuff it out. Also, you've got to watch with this particular style, it does need to be primed. So a lot of people carry a priming dish of some type. Here I was just on bare dirt, so it was no big deal to spill a little bit of the fuel on the outside to heat the can. So just remember, when you're picking garbage, all cans are not created equal. In this case, this is a smaller stove that I made. This is more like a Red Bull size. They make bigger ones, like some of the bigger Monster energy drinks. But just that 12-ounce can is what you're going to find most common. And you can turn trash into a usable resource with just a little bit of skill. Till next time, this has been Jamie Boggs with Burning River Bushcraft. See you soon.